It's me. I wanted to take a little bit of time today and share some research that I've been doing into state House and Senate bills that have been coming forward in this past year or so in regards to parental rights in education and um, education transparency. There's a lot that has been said, and I just kind of wanted to know for myself, what does this look like in reality? Um, So I did some research and I can post the sources in the comment, or not the comment box, but the information box below so that you can also take a look. And if I find myself to be incorrect in anything, I will um, make a statement about that. Um, but I really just wanted to know what's coming forward. How specific is it? Because I feel like things can get really dramatic really quickly, especially in politics. No matter what side you're on, it can get really dramatic. Things coming forward, it feels like life and death, and I just wanted to know for myself. Um, I feel that since the pandemic, since COVID, a lot of this has been coming to light. It started with health and safety and masks, and it's progressed to conversations about truthful history, race and prejudice and racism in America, and anti-LGBTQ issues in America. And so we've gotten a lot going on. And I just want to look at the bills coming forward regarding parental rights. And it does touch on all these different pieces, but that's a conversation for a different day. And also assessing that I am a heterosexual white woman. It might not be my place to share this information, but again, conversation for a different day. A lot of the bills that are coming forward simply state that parents have rights to their child in education. Yeah, not arguing that. Not in any way. A parent should be involved in their child's education. That is a right. With it being a right, I will share this later, it is also a responsibility of the parent to be involved in their child's education. But again, I'll share that in a moment. I'll get through the information first, and then I'll kind of give my input and my opinion and my thoughts as an educator. Just as me as an educator, I'm not going to speak for all teachers, but I do know how it works in the classroom. For example, Alabama HB 6 says it prohibits the government from burdening certain fundamental rights of parents. And this is specific to education. Okay. Not saying, hey, parents, you don't get to be involved in your child's education. Not saying that at all. I think some of these bills might be like superfluous because, of course, parents should be involved. Here's where I have some hesitation. Texas HJR 58 states that a parent has the right to direct the education of the parent's child. Indiana HB 1407 affirms that no government entity shall infringe on the fundamental right of the parent to direct the upbringing, education, healthcare, and mental health of the parent's child without a compelling governmental interest of the highest order. Okay, and Mississippi HB 509 says the liberty of a parent to direct the upbringing, education, and mental health of that parent's child is a fundamental right. I see this as stating obviousness in a lot of ways. My worry that comes with these bills coming forward and being put into effect is the word direct. I feel like that's very intentionally put in some of these bills. Because it can be interpreted very basically, as in like the child has to go to school. I'm directing my child to go to school and get an education. But it can also become a lot bigger than that, where it has more of an impact on a classroom, a school, a district. What is direct? What is that meant to be? Now, the bills might have more specifics. Sometimes reading those is there's a lot of information and a lot of words, and that language is kind of hard to follow for me sometimes. So maybe there's more specifics that I just didn't get from it. But the way they say direct can become, I feel, dangerous in education, because does that mean the parent can say no to curriculum and really throw off a classroom or a school or an entire district? I don't know. So yes, these bills coming through are stating obvious things. Parents have rights to their child's education. But my worry is those few loud voices that we hear pretty much nonstop demanding change in education. How will they take the word direct within the law? How could it be misused? How could it be abused so that one parent or a small group of parents are changing the entire curriculum or changing the entire learning experience for not just their children, but all the children in that classroom, that school, that district? And that's where it can become a problem. Let's see. There are lots of bills coming through that, like I said, share the Parental Bill of Rights. There are other bills that are stating curriculum transparency, and that simply means making sure parents are able to see what curriculums are being taught. For example, in my last district, our math curriculum changed 2 years ago, and we switched to a different math curriculum. And the parents can go onto any of the websites for the schools or within the district and find out about that curriculum. And I think a lot of these bills are coming forward, sharing that, hey, districts, you have to share what curriculums you're using, what you're doing to address the standards. Which one? All standards are available online for any adult, any person who wants to find them. I can search Common Core state standards and they'll come up right away. So already most parents, because I believe every state has Common Core state standards for ELA, English Language Arts, and math. You can find that just by searching. So, and most schools have, and most district websites have links to those standards. And the science and social studies standards vary by state, but those are also easy to search. I could search Colorado science standards, and I already know they use Next Gen. So that's the specific standards that they're looking at, and a lot of states are switching to Next Gen. With social studies, it's a little bit different because like 4th grade does history of the state, and so those standards change a little bit because I'm in Colorado, where I learn about the history of Colorado. When I grew up in New York, I learned about the Iroquois because those indigenous cultures were in New York. But out here, I didn't teach my students about the Iroquois because it wasn't history of Colorado. So that's where things change with the social studies standards. Readily available online. And most districts have parent access to that. And then with the curriculums, I looked up just a random Colorado school district yesterday and went and I just typed in the search bar for that district, like curriculum. And I found out this school used Wonder 2020 for their literacy curriculum in elementary school. Engaged New York for math. Like, I can find access to that, and I can search for that. Engaged New York is a math curriculum that's free online. Any parent can go and check it out. So I also wanted to share good schools are putting this curriculum and these standards online for parents to find to make it accessible to parents. The head of American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten, even said that. His quote is, "Good schools and good school districts have always had curriculum transparency. Pretending otherwise is just the latest attempt for others to exploit the frustration of COVID to create a toxic environment where the biggest losers are children and their recovery." Absolutely true. Every district I've worked for, and I've worked for 3 different districts, I've researched hundreds of districts. Hundreds. And I've always been able to find these things easily just by searching on the website. So these bills that are coming through on curriculum transparency, similar to the parental rights, I worry that they're stating an obvious thing that's already happening. It's a non-issue. However, with the wording of some of these bills, how can it be manipulated and misused and ultimately abused in a way that will hurt the districts, the students, and the teachers that work there? Some other things that are coming through with regards to curriculum and parental rights. South Carolina HB 5183 says that certain concepts are prohibited from being included in public school instruction. Schools have to provide procedures, or districts have to provide procedures for public review of public school curriculum and instructional materials. And to provide parents are expected to be the primary source of the education of their children regarding morals, ethics, and civic responsibility. And to provide a parental pledge of expectations that must be provided to parents as part of the registration and enrollment process. Lots to unpack here. First thing I want to share, certain concepts are prohibited. With it being shared that it's certain, again, that phrasing can be misconstrued and used in a way that might not be helpful. Providing procedures for public review of school curriculum and instructional materials. Review, great. Having people involved in the education process is great. Now, do you mean review or do you mean edit? Those are 2 very different things that, if not specifically designed into the bill, could mean that one parent or a small group of citizens are having a huge impact on the curriculum being taught or not being taught. That's my worry. The next piece where it talks about parents being expected to be the primary source of education of their children. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Regarding morals, ethics, and civic responsibility. Yes, please. Please. You are the primary source. Absolutely. Side note, I know there's a lot of people who are talking about social emotional learning and that shouldn't be taught in the classroom. Gotta organize my thinking. Parents are responsible for social emotional learning because do you know what that qualifies as? Showing kindness, showing respect, being a responsible citizen for yourself and for others. That is something you start right away. I mean, my son is almost 1, and these are already things that I am working on with him on a level that's appropriate for like a kid who just learned to walk. But this starts at home. You are the primary person for teaching these things, 100%. It still happens in the classroom too. Because we have to get these kids to learn. I can't just have an assignment, give it out, and they just do it. I'm talking about primary elementary students. They have to learn how to be a student. And that means being responsible, not just at home with cleaning up your things and making your bed, but how do I read directions, follow those directions to complete this assignment, and make sure it's turned in on time? That's responsibility. That's also perseverance. That's grit. Those are character traits that have to be practiced. And that happens in a classroom. It's just how it is. Yes, they should be also taught at home, but these are things that help students throughout their education. There's also, think about young students, kindergartners, first graders. They are learning to be people in a society. And their society is the classroom. So one thing they have to learn at home and at school is, yes, I know you want that material, that resource, that tool, whatever it might be. It could be a marker. And maybe someone else has that. You do not just get to take it from them. They were using it. There is a respectful way to engage in a conversation that helps you get that material. Say, hey, could I use that when you're done? Or are you done? I'd really like to use that right now, that marker. This is showing kindness in the classroom. This is showing respect. This is also teaching students how to use language in a way that is supportive of respectfulness and kindness. So, yes, parents are the primary source of education, but it must be understood that these things have to be understood in the classroom. Like, this teaching continues in the classroom as well, because it has to. It would be absolute chaos if I did not intervene when a student was stealing another kid's marker, or if another student wanted the chair that one kid was in and just pulled it out from under him, because that's insanity. There are ways to go about this, and they must be taught. Children need to learn these skills and hone and practice these skills, and they do that in the classroom. They do it at home too, yes, but it also happens in the classroom. So, yeah, let's see. We have a lot of bills that are specific to speaking about race. Louisiana's got a weird one talking about schools cannot teach children that they are currently or destined to be oppressed or be oppressors based on the child's race or national origin. You're 49th in the country in regards to education. This is not the legislation you need to be pushing. Louisiana, get it together. Talking about race, talking about LGBTQ topics, gender identity, sexual orientation. These are all things that need to be addressed. Again, I'm not touching on that today. I am addressing that some of these bills or pieces of legislation could impact that, right? Directing the upbringing, education, and mental health of that parent's child is the parent's right. How can that be twisted when it comes to a child who might be struggling with their gender identity? How can that be twisted? A lot of ways, right? It can be twisted a lot of ways. So that's why that makes me nervous. There's also Florida, HB 1055, allowing school districts to install video cameras and require that teachers in those classrooms wear a microphone for the camera. Parents, school employees, and other specified entities would be able to request to view footage. However, it cannot be used for teacher evaluations and is only intended to ensure the health, safety, and well-being of students in the classroom. This is Florida. 42nd in education in the country. Slap in the face. Teachers do not put in all this work to become teachers to be unsafe and not care about their students. It's frustrating to think that we need to be monitored to ensure that. There's another bill in Missouri, HB 1858, gives parents the right to review all materials and allowing them to request information about who is teaching their child. Stopping right there real fast. What kind of information? Like where I went to school, what my experience is, what my expertise is in within education? Or are you like wanting my Facebook page? Are you wanting to know where I grew up? Like this worries me because it feels like it can be used, whereas your teacher's outside of school too. And I've heard that before. And that's not okay. You are teachers, yes, but that's not your only identity. You're your own person. If you want to go and get some wine at the store, you can do that because, I mean, as long as you're not on the clock, right? If you're not supposed to be in the classroom, you can go and get wine. And that's my worry, is that teachers will start to be evaluated and judged and even maybe have charges brought against them for being whole people. So that is concerning in Missouri. But parents can also visit the school and check in on their minor child during school hours. One, I've had very few parents actually ask to come into the classroom and watch their student. I have offered many parents to come on in and watch their student in an effort to help the student be a better learner, be more successful. None have taken me up on it. And I don't know a single school or teacher that doesn't have a similar policy. I don't see any parent being denied access to the school ever. In the schools I've been at, it's actually been a problem where we are reaching out to families. We're trying to get parents in and involved, and it's not happening. So that's frustrating. Because schools allow that. You can go in and check in. You don't need legislation to say that because that's how it is already. But after that, to observe your child, come check in on your child during school hours, parents can bring a civil action for injunctive relief against the school district or public school for any violations which could result in temporary withholding of state funding. So now these parents are coming in, are going to have the ability to come in with the intent of finding something wrong. And then that could impact the school's funding, which ultimately hurts your student, right? If there isn't funding coming in, then that's resources that we can't provide. That is staff that we can't afford because you made a complaint. And instead of talking to the teacher, instead of talking to the principal, or even the district superintendent or district staff, you go and take it well beyond that. This skips a whole process. And what teacher, what school staff wants or will feel safe or comfortable with parents in the building when this is an option? Here we are welcoming, and we've been doing it for years, inviting parents in, and now they're going to come in with the intent to find something wrong. It's going to happen, right? That's an overstep, and it's one of those things where it can be misused, it can be abused. So here are all these bills. They're introduced. They've, gone through steps in the legislation. I don't know the exact steps. I am not skilled in that, but there's actually there's like first readings, there's second readings. It's going through the process. I tried to cut out the ones that have already been killed in before going any further. So most of these are in a process. Like I said, most of these are obvious. Most of these are stating just something that's already there, something that's already happening, something that no one that I know in education doubted. But the problem is the way that these bills are stated, they can be misused, they can be abused, they can be hurtful to students, to teachers, to schools, and to districts all over. Now, I also want to share what parental involvement I always appreciated or would have liked in my classroom. Like I said, I've been a part of districts where we beg, we're asking, we do lots of things to invite parents into the classroom, into the school, to see what their children are doing. And, a lot take us up on that, and they're there. A lot don't, right? You have parental rights, but you also have a responsibility to be a part of your child's education. I would love to see parents showing up for more than just the open house or the back to school night and parent-teacher conference. Come out to a party. Come, there are events. Before I left teaching, we had a family night where we did this really cool art activity with a book. And it was amazing. And there were some parents there. I think our turnout was pretty decent, but knowing that there's 3 classrooms and I had 26 students in my class, and I saw 4 of those parents and those families, we're inviting you in. We want you to come in. But we also want you to come in with kindness in your heart, without hostility, knowing that teachers are working hard. We would also love partnership opportunities to work with you related to your student. If we're running into a problem academically, socially, behaviorally, and we get in touch with you, we're reaching out to you, chances are this has been going on for a little bit, right? If there's a behavioral issue, the teacher's been working with that student to try and find a solution, and it's still happening. So when a teacher reaches out to a parent, it's to partner up and try to fix this challenge, this struggle, so that the child can be successful. We're not calling anybody out. We're not saying, hey, you need to fix this. It is always, and I've never heard of a teacher or staff member that's like, you need to take care of this. It's always, how can we partner together? Partner with us. That's how parents can get involved in education. That is what teachers need. We need you there. Just support. And know that we're not sharing things to hurt you. We're looking to help, because ultimately our goal is to help your student. In regards to parents having a say in the curriculum, this is really the meat of my irritation. Parents, in order to be a parent, you have to have sex. That's about it, right? You have to have sex. That's what you do to become a parent. Go through the 9 months, which is a rough 9 months, and then labor and delivery, and that's its own struggle. Really, that's the requirement to become a parent. What is the requirement to become an educator? At least a bachelor's degree in education, where you learn about child development, you learn about the science and the research into whatever your specialty is. If it's like biology, you have to learn all these classes. You take all these classes in science, but also in how to teach children. For me in elementary school, I had an English concentration, but I also had to learn about how to teach science, ways to teach social studies, and how to make that engaging, because that's a whole other factor, but also the science behind the best research in teaching reading and literacy and math to help kids be successful. 4 years of that. And then I went and I got my master's, so that's another 2 years of specific education in teaching children. And then every year, you have to make sure you get enough learning so that you can keep your license, which you have to take a test for. I had to take 3 in New York. I don't know if that changed. I hope it did. To prove that I know how to teach kids. So, to be a parent, be a teacher. Very different requirements. Sorry, this way. Yeah, this way. Now, parents should be able to see the curriculum that's being used. But when parents start to put in and affect that curriculum, that's where I have a problem. Because you don't know. You don't have the education experience in teaching. That's a fact. Could you go out and learn? Could you take classes? There are so many teacher books because I have a long list of them and I keep slowly buying them and reading and taking notes. You can definitely learn how to teach reading, how to help your student be a better math student. You can learn these things, but most parents that I've worked with have not. Most parents don't, because that's what teachers are for. Trust it, because we're educated. But when parents or citizens who do not have an education experience are trying to say things about education, that's not okay. Because here are the questions that I have for you. I need to be doing a small group of reading, right? It helps students become better readers to have small group opportunities. That means my students need to be doing work. So I do centers. Now, one center is usually an individual center on a computer of some sort so that they can get some more literacy support. But then there's other centers that need to happen. Now, parent who I'm talking to that wants to tell me how to teach and what to teach, how should I group my students? Should I group them heterogeneously or homogeneously? No, it's not a gender identity or a sexual orientation. I truly want to know, should I group my students heterogeneously or homogeneously? Because heterogeneously, I would have an expert in each group, and that could be helpful. But homogeneously, each student is working on the same skill. What would be your input, parent who did not go to school to learn how best and when best to assert both types of groups? Or what if I'm teaching a math lesson and my responsibility is to teach that math lesson? However, at the same time that I'm supposed to be teaching the entire class, I have a student who is picking up their chair and threatening to throw it at the rest of the class. Not only am I working with that, but I have another student that is in the hallway screaming at the top of their lungs and might elope the building. And by elope, I mean run away and run out the building. So here I am, parent. Do I continue teaching the class? Do I go and care for the safety over the academic of the students that I'm teaching by making sure that student does not throw a chair at the class? Or do I go in the hallway to make sure that I keep that student safe from running out of the building and who knows what might happen? These are real situations that happen in the classroom, and they impact teachers every day. And for parents to have a say, what are you going to say about that? How do you deal with that? Only teachers have the knowledge and the experience to be able to manage all this. And if you're not going to support the teachers, then you should sit down. Don't stress these bills. Do not push these through because you're not really there to help teachers. The way you can help is by trusting them and working with them, not by attacking them, not by demanding that they teach what you are comfortable with, what you want taught. That's not going to get us anywhere. That's going to hurt education because more teachers are leaving. I will say, I don't want to be a teacher being forced to teach away one parent or a small group of parents are demanding and expect I teach. I am here. I was there in the classroom for the kids, and I will continue to work for the kids outside of the classroom. So that was a lot. So ultimately, there's a lot going on, and it can go a lot of ways. It can be something that's not a big deal, but it can be abused. It can be misused. These bills, these pieces of legislation that are coming through, and ultimately what I feel is that we're dealing with a small group of people that are really loud. And we can't forget that it's a small group of people. We have to stay strong and know that we, as educators, as people who respect education and the work that teachers put in, we have to trust them because they know what they're doing. And if you're not sure, talk to the teacher. Ask the teacher because they're more than willing to share these things with you. They're more than willing to open up and be honest and give you all the information. Go to the conferences, go to the back to school night. Be a part of your child's education. But don't try to control it. I know that was a lot. Thank you for sticking it out. I hope that maybe you learned something or got a better understanding, or maybe I've inspired you to check out your own state bills that are coming through. But ultimately, have a great day. It's almost the weekend.